I set a boundary with my girlfriend, and I'm afraid I may have to honor it. Hey all. I'm in a tough spot, and I'm afraid this might be the last straw. I've been with my partner for a little over 9 years now. We've both grown and changed a lot. We've butted heads plenty, but we've always managed to come through. One constant strain on our relationship, one that has gotten much worse over the past couple of years, is her mental health. She is diagnosed with ADHD and believes she has other things going on as well. Recently, she said she thinks she's autistic, though she hasn't been diagnosed. I have no issue with any of this. I have my own challenges, too, but it's relevant. She struggles significantly with tasks, chores, jobs, work in general. Our home is almost always filthy, food left out, laundry carpeting the floor, dishes piled up, etc. I try to keep up, and occasionally she'll go through brief manic periods where she cleans a bit, but overall this has become the norm. She has always managed to cover her portion of the bills, but she can't really keep a job. She's told me she won't work full-time again until she can do it for herself. She wants to start a business. Currently, she works 3 days a week and dedicates the rest of her time to side projects. She has a lot of side projects. I want to be supportive, and I have been, but they all end up abandoned and become yet another source of clutter. More honestly, she works 3 days a week and then spends the rest of her time on her phone, sleeping, or dissociating. I work a lot. Not because we're struggling, but because we have goals and want to save for the future. It's incredibly difficult to come home and see this every day and constantly pick up the slack. At this point, I'm deeply afraid for the future. She has no savings, and even her physical health has taken a back seat. I've tried to bring this up before, and it led to a full-blown explosion. Lately, she's been extremely combative. Anything I say has a 50-50 chance of being taken as an attack. I'm a very soft-spoken person, and I'm careful when communicating frustration, hurt, anger, or even mild criticism. But if I bring up something she's done that upset me, she takes it as a personal attack and immediately becomes very defensive or angry. I don't feel like I can talk to her anymore. I feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, afraid I'll screw up when talking to the person who's supposed to be my partner. I no longer feel emotionally safe in my own home. I've also been experiencing serious health problems lately: high blood pressure, heart palpitations, headaches, and a constant sense of being in fight or flight mode. If my phone rings, I jump. If I hear the front door open while I'm home alone, I get an adrenaline rush and a pit in my stomach. I'm anxious and on edge all the time. At my doctor's instruction, I've been tracking my blood pressure and palpitations. I kept a journal and even wore a heart monitor for a while. I've noticed that my symptoms spike most when I'm on my way home from work or when I know she's about to come home. Knowing that makes me incredibly sad. She used to be my person, my safe space, someone I trusted and felt secure with. She just isn't anymore. Things came to a head a while ago. I'd been discussing all of this with my therapist, and she helped me figure out how to enforce a boundary. This is something I've always been comically bad at, but I'm trying to stop being a doormat. The boundary was this: I cannot be with a partner who will not prioritize their mental health when it is negatively affecting them and our relationship. I told her I needed her to seek diagnosis and treatment. We had a conversation, and I tried so carefully to keep it constructive. I explained why I was struggling and shared the boundary above. As soon as I did, she stood up and left the room. Taking a breather is fine, but she left silently and slammed the door. I could hear her storming around the living room, slamming things, cursing, and screaming. It turned out she was throwing pillows and herself onto the couch, but still, the main theme was, "How dare you?" She came back into the room and, very coldly and calmly, almost flippantly, said, "I've thought about it, and I won't be doing that." That sentence hasn't left my mind since. I don't think it ever will. I finally shared a deep, important need, one that was actively harming me and our relationship, and that was her response. After that, the conversation just fizzled out. I didn't know what else to say. She talked about her plan for self-treatment, which consisted entirely of renting an Airbnb and doing acid alone. I've heard of people finding that therapeutic, but what? That was 2 months ago. Not much has changed. I've tentatively brought up therapy, diagnosis, and treatment a few times since, but I'm always met with shutdowns, evasiveness, or anger. So I guess this is it. She's shown me that she either doesn't take me seriously, doesn't respect my needs and boundaries, or simply can't. I find myself swinging back and forth between imagining how peaceful it might be to live alone, and maybe someday find a partner who communicates with and respects me, and the devastation of breaking up, untangling our lives, and mourning what we were. I've written her a letter. It talks about how much I love her, how much I valued our time together, and how much I believe in her potential. But it also states clearly that I was serious about needing her to seek help and that I can't keep doing this. It's essentially an open-ended breakup letter. Part of me wants to give it to her and see if it finally shocks her into understanding how serious this is. Another part of me wants to give it to her and tell her she has a month to move out. It feels silly to ask, but is this even worth saving? Part of me feels like I'm disrespecting her agency over her own mental health. But I keep reminding myself that this is about what I need, and if she can't meet that, That's on her. Thanks for reading. I hope you have a nice weekend. Final update, I really appreciate all the comments, advice, and support. I know some of you suggested ditching the letter, but it was important to me to say everything I needed to say. It's also a form of communication she and I have agreed works better for her, so it didn't feel out of the ordinary. I gave her the letter last night before I left for work. She knew something was coming. We hugged quietly, both cried a little, and I left. She seemed to take it seriously, like she cared. For a moment, it gave me hope. The letter essentially said, I'm writing this because I love you, but I'm not happy. I feel unsafe. I feel like you don't care. I love being the person who has your back, but you don't have mine. There's no room for me or my emotional needs. It feels like I don't matter unless it directly affects you in the moment. I asked you to seek help, and you refused. I have to take my boundary seriously. I can't keep being part of this when you refuse to work on your mental health, even though it's destroying you, and us. That's the Cliff Notes version. When I got home, she was out with friends. I went to bed early, she came home quietly and didn't say much. I asked how her night went, and she snapped that I had sabotaged her plans. Apparently, she went to a different friend for support instead of the girls' night she had planned. I told her that wasn't fair, I needed to give her the letter, and she could have waited to read it. She said, even if you didn't mean to, you sabotaged my night. I was honestly stunned. She said she didn't want to talk right now. I told her, when you're ready, and rolled over to sleep. I understand anger. But the fact that the only thing she had to say was that I ruined her plans is deeply painful. I've been stumbling through my day today. I'm waiting for her shift to end. We'll see what happens.